draw a reflection, to touch into the affairs of leadership of our country, and also to make you love your country more. My country is my safety. Every one of you knows Uganda is home. This is where you were born. If not born, you are a citizen of our country. Many of you have moved abroad to different countries, but realize that Uganda as a home is better than any other country. So we are looking at the power of good governance. Amaanyi g'obukulembeze obulungi. What is a government? Omuntu bw'avaayo n'agamba ekigambo gavumenti, bw'oba ogera government, what comes into your mind? Ki ekijja mu muntu agamba nti government? Presented by me. Now, why governance on the spotlight? Lwaki tulabye nti twetaaga okuba torch mu bukulembeze in our country, Uganda? Number one, every one of you is aware that we have just concluded one of these main events in the country. Number one, we have just gone through the elections, parliamentary elections 2026. And every one of you knows what transpired in those elections. That's why we ask, why a military operation in 2026 general presidential and parliamentary elections? Why a military operation in the 2026 general presidential and parliamentary election? Every one of you knows we went into an election that later on turned into something else. As you realize, many of us are in court. We petitioned. Reason? We are going to look into the details of those. Number two, why the violence in local council elections? All of you know we have just concluded the voting. Should I say the voting? Yes. Of the LC1 local leaders, the women councils. But you saw what transpired in those elections. The violence, the militarization, you know, long lines, but the shorter one is declared the winner. You saw how government arms were used to benefit colleagues of the ruling party. Why the oppression and suppression of key political leaders? Why the oppression, suppression of key political figures in the country? Why the corruption? Why the escalating misuse of power? Why deteriorating levels of service delivery to the community? Why the increase in human rights violation? Why an increase in the public debt? Why the controversial legislation? Mwena mubadde mulaba nti parliament ye 11 tulinamu amateeka gomwala baali bayita vawuto mwe mwali ya computer misuse bili abirimu ebiri twalinamu amateeka nga the sovereignty bill mwagiraba katolereemu ekikonde. So bino ebintu ebimu katubitunuulira bituleetera okugamba nti ekizibu kiri luddawa. Obukulembeze butugasa, abakulembeze baffe tukyabeetaaga. Lwaki amabanja geeyongera okwewola ku bungi, but why the increasing public debt? As of now, it's at 136 trillion as a country. And much as we borrow, services to the people, service delivery is deteriorating. Every one of you is complaining about hospitals, you are complaining about the roads, you are complaining about, you know, the education sector. So the complaints are simply too many. We borrow money, but where does it go? Okwewola si kubi, naye government weyewola sente ziragawa. Tubadde tulaba okuwamba, abductions, byonna bikyali bibuuzo. Why exile of voices and prolonged detention without trial? Why the bloated administrative structures? The fusion of the executive, judiciary and legislature or legislation. Why the high and under-deployment of the youth? Why the reducing public trust in government institutions? Why? Because we feel there are so many things that have been not done by our leaders. This brings us to why the institutions of government are not independent. The other is why the high rate of labor externalization, why the rampant evictions, and why the assault of journalists. Yesterday, all of you saw what happened in court and the Chiza Besigye case. Now they are telling us we should not cover court. Move with your books. You will just report on what you've seen, but you cannot have camera in the courtroom. then one asks, do these courts still serve the interests of the people? All these whys call for answers. That is why, as a leader, I felt it is very important to start drawing a reflection and more light into how the leadership, the politics in our country goes about. Some of you might think politics is for the politicians. Not. In all the activities that you do in this country, it is politics. So at the end of the day, we cannot escape the consequences of these whys. Then, anyway, are you bothered by these shortfalls? Or for you, all is well, as long as you are not directly affected? In your life, have you ever had a time to reflect on the leadership affairs of Uganda? If yes, what is your personal resolution? But you are twebuziza ebibuzo byonna waggulu. Lwaki bawamba abantu? Lwaki abantu bakosa by'obuyinza? Current investment is investment. Ojja kubuuza bye bakola biri mu mateeka. Era olwanga biri mu mateeka. Lwaki ababikola ate bavaayo ne beewaana olwanga biri mu mateeka? So the whole issue is about piquing interest. Tufune obwagazi obw'obukulembeze. Every one of us is a leader. We are all leaders, but in different capacities. So how does, when I mention of a government, what comes to your mind? Omuntu bagamba government kyekijja mu bwongo obwo. Abamu bagamba government automatically kijja mu bwongo obwo Mwami Museveni. Automatically kijja mu government kuwamba abantu. Automatically human rights violations. Abamu ekijja Kyagulanyi yadduka mu ggwanga. Ssemujju Nganda yagenda kasitayogera ku government. Abamu Saidi akirabanga ekirooto eky'entiisa. Abamu agirabamu obuweereza. Bwe tuba nga tuli mu discussions ngazo, if we are in such discussions, it is very, very non-partisan. Because all the effects of these shortfalls affect everyone. You saw when it came to the evictions, you remember, from the wetlands. You saw the trade order. People lost business. Abantu bafiirwa business nga bateekesa trade order mu nkola. Abantu bwe baali babajja ku nguudo oba nga babajja mu ntobazi, amayumba gaabwe gaakubibwa, amayumba gaagwa. So omuntu abuuza, bwe njogera ku government, what comes to your mind? Era omuntu bwe bagamba nti government bwe kikyolowooza. Gavumenti buweereza. Gavumenti bakulembeze. Gavumenti bitongole bya gavumenti. So basically that is what comes to everyone's mind. Naye namwe mujja tubuulira nti omuntu bwakugamba nti gavumenti bwe kikyolowoozaako immediately. What do you need of a government? In any case, do you need a government? Government mugwetaaga, obukulembeze mugwetaaga, bw'obanga obwetaaga. Then what's the role of the serving government? Government erina tuweereza etya? And who is government? Bwe tujja wano, who is responsible for ensuring that the government executes its mandate as per the established laws? How, when, where? How visible is government in your life today? Ani avunaanyizibwa ku kufuba okulaba nga gavumenti ekola obuvunaanyizibwa bwayo? Ebukola ddi? Ebukolera wa? Era ebukolera ani? Igwe bw'otunuulira emirimu gy'okola, gavumenti ogirabira, how visible is government in your operations? Gwe bw'otunuulira ebyo by'okola, gavumenti ogirabira wa? Government ekugasa bw'obanga oli mu kaduuka ako, where is government? Is it only visible when it has come for taxes? Is it only visible when they are evicting you? When do you visibly see government? Government ogirabira wa mu bulamu bwo. I want to inform you as a country that it is the responsibility and duty of government to ensure that every single Ugandan lives a life that is admirable. That is the sole duty of the government, is to ensure that the welfare of Ugandans is catered for. Do we still have an opportunity to do better? If yes, how? We've looked at the whys. We're not to be lucky. We are tired of lamenting. But whys ziri, abductions, suppression of opposition political parties. Now you saw in Parliament the current administration of Parliament Act, the proposal, the bill by I'm forgetting even his name. This man from Buyaga County. The proposal for him, the problem is how does the leader of opposition come into office? Not looking into the perspective of how does the prime minister come into office. So, do we still have an opportunity to do better? Never genda maso. Mwamuliraba, tukyalina omukisa okwetereza. Bwetubanga tubulina, who is responsible? I want to appeal to you from today onwards. Bw'obanga obadde ebyobufuzi bikuwunyira ziizi, just note olina ekizibu. You cannot shy away from politics by any standard. Reason? Politics has the structures as equal service. It is politics that brings the food on the table. It is the politics that looks into the taxes that you pay. It is the politics that has leaders that abduct you. It is the politics that brings the lack of drugs in medical facilities. So we cannot shy away from opposition. So by all these questions, the concept of governance comes in. Obukulembeze. Bwe muli bw'oba olaba, obukulembeze bulina kye bukola mu bulamu bwo. Bwe tuba n'obukulembeze obulungi, does it have any impact on your livelihood? You know, I normally tell people that leadership has both a broader perspective and a narrow perspective. Leadership within your family, it is somehow equivalent to your family. You have a father, a mother, and children in a home. Does every one of those stakeholders do their part? If a father does not do his part, how does it affect the family? If a mother doesn't do his part, how does it affect the family? So, it brings us back to the bigger perspective at a national level. Why good governance now? It's high time, as Ugandans, we picked interest into the leadership affairs of our country. Good leadership is important for the progress, for the success of any country. Believe me not, the overthrow of the NRM government automatically has an impact. From 1986 to date, those are close to 40 years plus of leadership, and no single sign of transition. When people use their legal mandate of electing their leaders, somebody else is declared the winner. Why could we see LC council elections becoming military fields? Akaluka LC1 just, you saw what happened. Kulonda, LC1 chairman, Emundu Nezivayo, Aremtiwa Nebavayo, you know, everyone comes out, Plagamani. Njagala okubategeeza nti obukulembeze obubanga tebugatta bannansi automatically you get affected. Whatever transpired and happened in the local council elections automatically will have broader implications in the future. Abantu bayawukanye ku byalo. Mwalabira abadde waffe Sembabule, tear gas, mukaluka LC1. Registers nowhere. You come, I mean, apart from the registers, somebody is declared the winner, yet their line was shorter. So why good governance? Why obukulembeze obulungi? I normally tell people that buli otunatuulira ng'obukulembeze nga tutuulira mu kifaananyi kya Mwami Museveni, tugenda kusanga ekizibu. Era njagala okubasaba n'okubawa essuubi nti Uganda ekyalina omukisa to do better. We still have an opportunity to rebrand, okulaba nga tutunuulira ebitagenze mu maaso bulungi. Tukyalina omukisa okugamba ku bali mu buyinza. You know, normally I like people when they say, time to come, you will know the power of the tongue. I don't know what you want us to do, but for us, we shall take the legal pathways of ensuring that so, governance in Uganda today operates, obviously, you cannot underscore the importance of the laws. And the supreme law of this country is the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. As the presidential republic led by President Museveni, for the years 1986, generation in Abana Basinga, you were working up the Constitution. What comes to the mind is President Museveni. But do you remember what happened to the Constitution in 2005? The 2-term limits, scrap of which terms bill, Ugandans had an opportunity. Bill 2005, Singati Raja Koko Kumia, Kubisan, Singati Yaman 7 Nagara. It would have been history. The issue is not the president incumbent, but the issue is okukozesa amateeka oba oga is to amend laws in the interest of an individual. So you can ask, if one asks, what was the interest of the amendment of the term limit in 2005? What was the intention? What was the intent and in whose interest? Now we come to 2017, the removal of the age limit. It was 75 years, now unlimited. In our country, you have the right, you are at liberty to stand for those so many terms as long as you find ways of getting yourself an opportunity. You can become president even beyond 75 years. So whenever the laws are not amended, the Constitution while the structural framework features separation of powers among the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, what then? The assumption is the three arms of government are independent. Executive and independent. Whenever we talk about the executive will be the and his team. For here, we talk about the ministers, we talk about the presidential advisors, we talk about the RDCs. What they are executive? The 127, the cabinet here. And these ones, by no they have the mandate from Article 98 of being the fountain of honor, the chief of defense forces, the commander-in-chief, is the head of government and head of state. There is somebody who made a comment. King government. People don't differentiate between NRM and the state. NRM is government and the ruling party. State, the institution, Uganda is the state. So don't confuse our property, state property, to be, termed as NRM properties. So every Ugandan has the duty, number one, to apply for any government job. You are at liberty to use any government facility as long as you are a Ugandan. Not forgetting that you operate under multi-party dispensation. So never confuse NRM with government. The only thing is that NRM is the ruling party. So when you come in government, then you are in leadership in the interest of all the people of the Republic of Uganda. So to confusing NRM. Era one time one MP said, "No, honorable. Minister. All public offices are for Ugandans." The reason as to why government sets a structure that will serve us is to serve all of us. Who end up in any political party, they have their offices, they have their political party structures. But when it comes for a government, that unites us. That is why one expects any sensible government, first of all, to be mindful of equity and equitable distribution of resources and in whatever they do. It is evident that the executive branch holds dominant power, and civil and opposition spaces remain heavily constrained. We no longer separate the executive from these other arms of government. Government will be in because it says that. Whenever we talk about the civic space, some of you might not appreciate. How strong FIDA was. How TASO was. So the suppression of the civic space has affected all those NGOs. That is why most of them have closed shop. And that has led to a reduction or to reducing civic education in the public. So when one talks about the executive holding dominant power and misusing its dominance and position to suppress these others, government will full of years. To regulate how others operate. The NRM government is supposed to regulate on how we should operate. If you are an NGO compliant, all of a sudden somebody brings the sovereignty bill. Sovereignty bill, how does it impact on the livelihood of the Ugandans? So one asks, do you still appreciate that we are under multi-party dispensation? And I want to appeal to you. I normally see many of you on social media make comments. Mwabantu muli wa president wa mwagenda. Mwalachi close shop Kyagulanyi agenda. Some of you even reach to an extent of going too private to his family and these others. Yes, it is true. When you are a leader, I mean, you are subject to public scrutiny. That is true. But you must also not forget that the opposition is not an individual. The opposition is embedded as of recent. Whether President Kyagulanyi is there or not, ebizibu ebikulu bigenda kusigalawo. Oba waliwo bataliwo, bigenda kusigalawo. Yagenze mu America kati mudzaako ki? I will also ask you that when you go to the hospital and you don't find drugs, ozzaako ki? When you go to a public school, nga tewali basomesa, mukulu gozzaako ki? When we get these so many road accidents, I'll also ask you gozzaako ki? So, a compromise in the performance of any government automatically affects everyone. A compromise in government services affects everyone and all of us. So, I would like to appeal to you. When we come out to demand for public service, standard public service, it must be the duty of all of us. Kakati njagala kuzamu banafe. Abali mu opposition amaanyi. Nti tewabaka kulowoozesa nti omukulembeze wo abataliiwo everything is done. Oba fena tubatuwedde or not, although buvunaanyizibwa bwaffe. It's our duty to protect our leaders. Era mbeebaza mwenna abavaayo when our leaders are under these minimal attacks. Nobody knows that today that we have to president waffe. Tujja kutuyobola MP wange. Ate nga naffe as leaders we come out temujja kutuyobola bannayuganda. So it's a two-way. We must protect our leaders, but in the same way, our leaders must protect us. No, Rachel, but political prisoners. True, some of you are in prison for quite some time. Waliwo bwenayakola comment n'agamba President Kyagulanyi ali mu America bajabulamu bawaiso bali mu makomera. I'm telling you, we shall not be moved by such reckless sentiments. You see? We shall make sure that we pursue the bigger and broader perspective. Njagala okutegeeza Kyagulanyi yatwala bawaiso mukomera. But Bobby Young, are they in prison because of Robert Kyagulanyi Sentamu? Not. Why don't you bring them to court? Give them justice and timely. Subject them to the courts of law if there is anything to answer. Mwalabye Baram, Honorable Minister for Local Government, moving around, up and down. Then the Vice President comes out and says, I want to call upon the Attorney General to advise the Honorable Baram and his team on how to operate legally. Otherwise, we shall find government in court. People shall petition government. Abakulu bano obukulembeze tebabukosezza bulungi. So nyongera okubasaba, it's our duty and responsibility to follow up and to call for accountability from any office bearer. Zino offices za government zaffe. These are our offices. Njagala kukakasa whether you like or not, we must be served. Era wano wesinzira ogamba buli mukozi wa government. Njagala okubategeeza, a public office is a people's office. Office ya government ya office ya abantu. You are there for and on behalf of the Republic of Uganda. That is why me and you pay taxes directly and indirectly to ensure that these social and basic services are extended to us. Government etujigamba kujja tusikira kikusiwaka not. We are saying you set your own standards. Government is setting a standard service delivery, basics of standard service delivery. When it comes to a classroom, every classroom, every desk, and we should have so many number of teachers in the classes. You see? So this calls for us enforcing these standards. You see, I want to see a government school as an MP. Njagala okulaba essomero lya government nga ne minister gy'asomeseza. Private sector eyambako buyambi government. nti twaligenza ogenda mu masomero ga private nga government gamaze kuddusa. But it is the contrary. If I asked any of you who would have loved to go and pay these high rates of school fees to these private schools when they are good government schools, most of you have been complaining. Honorable, why don't you now have a two-term system? Banana school fees in Gamuji. Now they have, it's about 4 weeks, within a period of 4 weeks, we must look for school fees, we must look for what to feed them. So, is bigger and beyond an individual. Generations come and go. Allow me extend my condolences to the family of Alex Mukuru. But I remember his clip when he said that we have served during our time. This is the moment for us to hand over to the next generation. The same will be done by us. We are going to hand over to the next generation. But does the next generation have interest? Do you have interest in the leadership affairs of our country? If I may ask, in the recently concluded LC1 elections, how many of you participated? First of all, by registering as voters. Number 2, as being candidates, how many of you came up to complain of the violence that was in the local council elections? Go and draw a report, find out. Chairman. And why? How many of you, the youth, got positions of women leaders at the women councils? This means in training. When we are interfacing with the Ministry of Public Service, we are looking at how does public service recruit at entry, in the middle, and are they mindful of the exit? We realized that there are so many public servants in the age of between 40 to 60. Meaning on another form that there is no one to replace them. Every not setting government. When a government sets a system on how it should work, first of all, a check research. This informs the number of institutions the government should have. We have been complaining about a bloated government. As of now, do we agree with the number of administrative positions, both political and technical? How many districts do you have? How many district chairpersons do you have? How many members of parliament do you have? How many ministers do you have? Do you need all of them? We're not related. A sensible and caring government, a setting a structure, a source of where is our Nancy. Remember, whoever is employed to work for government automatically has an impact or a financial implication on the consolidated fund. But we have 7 advisor. Your advisor benefits of that means we are setting up structures unrealistically. It is a pain to Ugandans. Why? The money that would have been used to deliver basic services to the people is used to pay public servants who are redundant. You have so many public officers, you have so many politicians because you don't have money for a capital investment. When I was we are in Entebbe, when we are with the opposition in that training, I asked them, have you picked interest in the record of how many government projects have stalled for beyond 10 years? You can't believe. Government projects. For example, in Masaka Regional Referral Hospital, a children and a maternity complex. When I was still in public service, it is never complete. You have staff quarters, you have classroom blocks in different parts of the country. Incomplete for a specific period of time. Whenever you see these incomplete projects, first of all, that is a consequence of poor planning. It automatically affects the way government operates. You will have redundant capital. Much as this is borrowed money, because you are aware that most of the money we use in capital development is borrowed. You borrow money, projects are idle. Then the government comes out and says, the private sector is the problem. Lwaki bano ba contractor betuwa emirimu tebagikolera mu budde. Lwaki bano ba contractor betuwa emirimu, they are expensive. Reason temuwasasula sente mu budde, they are not paid in time. Number two, it is your engineers that bloat the rates. Katolinga Baya Gamba, no. The solution is Mukwate, private companies Muzijewo, make sure that you employ the engineering brigade. In the last report of the Auditor General, the consolidated report on government financial statements, by the close of the financial year 2024-25, Twaina Basita letters of credit close to 165 billion. The letters of credit mean that government had a commitment with some of these. It's now in the roads, it's now in the hospitals construction, it is now in the schools construction of classroom blocks. Siga and UPDF engineering brigade is all of Naye, was that a solution? Or could your private companies or so, muna building muna zimba our only company is private, like a opportunity. When I find no companies are Uganda. That is why we employ external companies. I mean, if you name them in Uganda, what companies are Uganda. Then one tells you, because by structure, Betukola Tebibawa Minimum. Betukola Tebibawa access to employment. That brings me back to although Uganda officially functions as a multi-party democracy, holding 5-year election cycles, independent reports highlight uneven political playing ground and challenges of electoral credibility. When it comes to elections, every one of you knows what happens. If elections cannot give us a peaceful transition, then what else? A minister moving around for oversight, an MP moving around for oversight, even questioning the conduct of public servants. When you are a product of vote rigging, when you are a product of bribery in politics, ngakaluwa backup. Na yongeze bakozi ba government temuka sente temubachi omubbi w'akalulu talina moral authority okukwestioninga mubbi wa sente. That is why as leaders at times we fall short of complaining about these shortfalls in elections. So this brings us to what do you expect them to do? Do you know why the crime rate is high? Public trust in the offices of government. Somebody thought a private, no box to vote your own leader. Kakati wano osange ngombo lya kugamba nti okuwangula n'okulangirirwa bya njawulo. Naye nga okuwangula n'okulangirirwa bya njawulo nga bye biyitibwamu okuleeta abakulembeze bwe tugenda okuwa omulimu omunene nnyo ogw'okufuba okulaba nga gavumenti etambula. Now we have a bundle and a collection of these individuals, of this group, as a product of ababbi b'akalulu, as a product of abantu abajja omubuyinza mu mangu etu naye nga bebeewadde obuvunaanyizibwa okutukulembera n'okutulaga Uganda esobole okugoberera amateeka. So that is why oli omubuuza n'omugamba nti gw'olowooza okusuppressing opposition tokifiirirwamu. As of recent mwalaba ensonga y'abasawo, the intern doctors You saw how the leader of opposition, when government brought its position, the leader of opposition came up and criticized and advised, gave an alternative, that government must plan for better for the interns. By intern, I was so disappointed by the Honorable Balyomus, the minister. Balyomus, how dare you come out and say, please, we are giving an ultimatum. You either, for whoever was given a placement, if you don't report by Monday, you automatically forfeit. That is Balyomus for you. No, Banabano, Linga, or Santina, bargaining power. Chiliwo, or enough Chukosa, or what is substandard, whether it conforms to the standards or not, you must use it. That's also very wrong on the side of leaders. In Chibantan, you have a complaining. Look into their clients. Back to Sarati, what are they asking for? What is the plight of the interns? Bakugamba, setting a system which solve the so wow. Intern doctor will government as a sway. I want to allowances move out. Bakuganga to move out. Mutubuli the why and what is the next course of action? Never as a minister, no gamba, mute kogenda mukole. That's why we are questioning. No going to know. And a better young laws and because you must treat people the way you want. Even not for a placement in time Mukisa way. But I'm going to get out laws and or Funa of ways of one team. Getting access to a standard service is I mean, whether it's not a privilege. It is a must. It's a condition for any government or governance, a standard and quality service. That is why and I want to caution government. Stop being expensive for the people of Uganda. Just imagine a minister, a strategic leader running around the country, uncoordinated. No sanga up from Kuzuwa government and Kuteje. I saw it in Udaka. I even saw the member of parliament for Udaka raising it. How do you handle public servants like that? Okuto Msomesa, again Msomesa, because for you to claim that I have a shortfall, when you not suppose it, no water J, if I'm proved innocent. When I go to so one another basha, no one for the so, Mr. Balaman, you should also look at your conduct. Be professional. Well, one minister now will never take out Fuga. A minister does not just roam around. A minister never will get a one undercover boss. No get a spotlight check. You and you must respect both sides. You cannot run a government in what you call this. Would you care about the strategically? Ministers, the values in eggs, strategic choices. No to supervising them. Did you give them money? Yes, we agree that the little that is given took a popular value for money. But also, it is our duty to ensure that we have functional structures that feed into each other. Must the minister run from Kampala to Zimbabwe to find out what Zimbabwe is? The untouchables in leadership. And I also want to caution political leaders. Let every one of us mark their lane. Our government to our own and it was supervising. That is eyes on, hands off. Let's stop. Let's do politics at Nairobi. That's why I normally tell people I saw the president, Mr. Museveni, when he was in Colorado for the State of the Nation address, when he said, I'm going to also make sure that the opposition does its part. When Museveni Taina to our opposition of Kola, we asked him of one thing: give us a conducive environment to do our work, Man Museveni. You will see how we shall checkmark you objectively with clear alternatives. Until we want opposition or would they? Whenever I give Senate time, no more environment so Kola. Senate Jakutula Apollo Munga. I want to remind you as a country that the opposition is paid using taxpayers' money. Sometime back I saw it was, I think, the Honorable Kabana. Nagamba, or you we know my ancestors are also the government. Everyone knows. Until the opposition is funded using public funds, then how do you expect as a leader? How do you expect Senate to draw his own personal money or collect in the government? So that is why we are saying, let us be maximum utilized. There in a Gwanga, it's respecting its human capital. Njagalo Bate, sometime back, Yaliman Museveni Agamanti. bw'otambuza emirimu gya gavumenti gitambuze nga your private business. I also want to ask him, nti Mwami Museveni, when you look into enkulembera gyetukulembeddwamu, the leadership today, if it was your personal business private, would you have run it the way you run this country? Nti bwebanga business yo kino kiduuka ati it's a shop for Mr. Museveni, would you run your shop like this? A shop that has many shop attendants than the customers. Edduuka lirimu abakozi bangi okusinga bebaguza. A shop that has all the stock. Edduuka lirimu ebintu ebikadde. That is no longer attractive in the market. Edduuka erita training abakozi baalyo. You don't update. I'm telling you one thing. I got an opportunity to work with Coca-Cola for some few months. And I want to credit them. Coca-Cola yampa training. Ngatonye yangu enkuba etonye. How do you tell them? Enkuba etonye, that's why I came late. There is no free salary to one free lunch in this country. But these are the times wosanga omuntu ng'asobola okukwata ssente za gavumenti n'azisigaza without accounting for it. But because government tefaayo, omubbi ono ayitawo, omubbi omulala n'agenda. You remember the Iron Sheet saga. Nandutu is in prison. Honorable Nandutu is in prison. Others are out. The Prime Minister was part. Honorable Mr. Rugweru was part. The Right Honorable Speaker Ntamu was part. Honorable Kasaija was. It was a gang of so many leaders and public officers. It's only Honorable Nandutu in prison. But when Nandutu was just a state minister, when you look into the structure of service, how could you take Nandutu, a state minister, then you leave the lead of government business? How that came about, no one knows. So, that selective application of the law, automatically, first of all, a later loss of public trust. Was Nandutu victimized or So some of these things will be happening. It brings us back now. You don't need to be a leader in a position. You don't have to. That's why I want to thank colleagues and comrades on the social media. Those who pick interest in matters of their country. You remember the parliamentary exhibition? I saw how it went awash on TikTok. I saw how the ex brought it out. I mean, the way the community picked interest to do the parliamentary exhibition. Those are some of the ways, the mode of calling for accountability in public service. So, we are not so accountability word. Bino ebyobukulembeze tebiriko nnannyinibyo. Era bwensinza okwebaza omukulembeze waffe, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Who of you knew nti omuntu wa bulijjo asobola okufuuka omukulembeze? Some of you used to think that becoming a member of parliament olina okuba mutaka, omwana w'omutaka. You must be some big person. That's why I, every time and again, appreciate the contribution when I saw this old man, the Honorable Rashandi, was on some TV station and said, I have never seen anything good. I've never seen anything good in Kyagulanyi. I questioned myself that is Rashandi. I've never seen him drunk. I was like, what has happened to this old man? 8 years and above, you are commenting about someone in his early 40s. You have never seen anything good in him. In any case, if you've seen something good in yourself, why a member of parliament at the age of 8 years and above? Number two, why do you take guns to Remiaga to shoot people for you to become a leader? So that one alone shows that Rashandi has no more authority to comment about Kyagulanyi. You cannot complain about an individual when you also fraudulently access some space. So I'm bringing some of these as examples to show you that we are all important. Every action that is taken by the single individual can contribute to, the change in leadership of this country. I'm calling upon your vigilance. Whenever you are in your shop, politics will find you in your business. So when you open your shop, government will be there. People don't know that government must make research to direct you on how you should invest. What is the basis? But because chips, you also think you should go and make chips. Because somebody has done it. Government must make research on future progress. Projects in the future. Because the global trend. The government, no, the sector of manufacturing, the sector of tourism is the most lucrative business to invest in for the next so many years. I can give you an example. Actually, when what I lost, does the government care? Government is going to but whenever you borrow money, business never failing, government should get concerned. Because when you are sent, you will not pay taxes. But what you are sent, to get social obligations as a parent. One of our job to the worker. Our job will be malnourished. All government is very feed. Business here government, at the other there's a government here in business here government bantu. When you are duka, the merchandise in a government shop are people. Now just look at this merchandise, a duka, didn't have a mira, a duka, didn't have a fesa, a duka didn't move, a bewase, a duka didn't move a carabukari, a duka didn't move a. So that is why a sensible government looks into the welfare of its people across board. So while it's government, when watching government, we are saying the government we interest rate in a bank. For you don't know, what you're people are borrowing the money. Our number sent. Because the terms and the conditions, parish model. Was the funa? That is a government program. There is a high rate of youth unemployment. What should we do as a government? The government sits and says the parish development model is a game changer, is a magic bullet, is a transformational program. Therefore, this should be a program that should change the lives and livelihood of the youth. Are you sure? The parish development model is so up to Soblambaba. Somebody says the Myoga money came. People even fail to account for that money. But still, government has never done a reassessment and evaluation of some of those programs. There are so many, the youth livelihood program, the women emancipation programs. These programs have been so many. Ngabita Microfinance Support Center, the UDB, in the interest of, Uganda, on how do you get access to cheap and cheap and affordable capital. Centers of government is your money. But you want a leakage. And your government before I got pipe yamas. But you want a Katuya Kanikin go to Fuma, Gomana Gumnaiba and go for. But you want a Katuya Kaisa. It's like a balloon. But you want a Katuya Kaisa. Just know that those inefficiencies are affecting away Gamma Uganda. So that is why we realize that the concept of good leadership, the concept of good governance comes into play. Because of the choices that they make. Leadership gives the direction into how business should be run of the country. So if government priority is increasing on the number of ministers, you will see. Or Sunday, government the structure, when I went to parliament, the right honorable Anita Mom, we are now calling me, by monitoring that. Then government comes up. Why should you wait? Or you get a rose Bananga to be to feed it you. Nyake turn 5 years. It is the seminary that made the choice of such leaders. After 5 years, you tell the country how somebody has been a big loss to government. Then one question is, when I lectured in government, they used to appraise us on an annual basis. A government appraisal. Now you get an officer government. If you are not appraising about public servants, what is the next course of action? I'm telling you, those appraisals are not looked into. That is why we look here. The standard of services as well as of government. Zika, but we look here. So what you about that you call it a value. You also another bali kuduka because we have lost shape. Below your number to your there. There is no government is over where is it? Not respecting the structures. Never what is so respecting the structure. Tell government is over where is our Nancy that whatever Nancy. Look. Sometime back I saw a clip from the Honorable Asolo. Honorable Asolo made a statement. He was at a function and he said, any leader, a member of parliament who petitioned an NRM MP in the court, just know that is equivalent to petitioning the President of the Republic of Uganda. Never know your minister. Mwokwabira omukoziwa okwabira omukulembeze w'NRM obanga awalidde President Museveni. A minister. Kakati bano banamuga watadukire mu kooti nga mbabbi obuli osuubira bagenda kukola ki? What should they do? So such reckless statements eziraga omukulembeze atawa kitiibwa bantu. Gavumenti yonna bw'emala okufuna obukulembeze n'ewa manifesto yaayo n'eraga on how it should serve the people in the course of 5 years. Buli mwaka n'esettinga by'enaakola through a budget. Do you know what a sensible government and caring government should have done? Jukira batuweereza on a quarterly basis. Quarter ya miezi esatu. Every quarter a government reports back to the people on what they have done. Our government bwe yaliise okugamba abantu nti mutusaasire wano tetubaweereza bulungi. But ekisa omwaka oguddako, this is what we are going to do in the line of improving. Naye kaakati otusanga oba batuweereza bulungi oba batuweereza bubi. None of them offers us an apology. Tewali atuwa apology. Because oli asuubira nti okuba omukulembeze akuyamba. Tewali akuwa apology. Bambi n'osanga abantu mu byalo ebyo bane government etuyambe. The government should help us. There is no single government that helps the people. Government erina kuweereza bantu. Weetasobodde kubaweerereza, a government should come out and apologize to its people. Wano wenjagala obabuuza mujja kubiba mu comment section. I've been looking at this trend of our number one, bahakulembeze baffe. Bambi, they run around to buy ambulances, they run around to buy Bowsers, they run around to buy some few equipment in government hospitals. Mwolema mukulembeze afaayo okukola emirimu gya government. Mwemulowooza, is that sustainable? Ekyo waliwo ayinza okukibeezaawo. And bw'abanga akikoze, does it stop the government from doing or executing its mandate? So bino byonna ba MP baffe bambi babikola because balabanga waliwo ekibulamu abantu bayagga. Kati kambawo ekyokulabirako, omusana nkulaba guno gwase. Omusana gwase emmwanyi ne ziwowa. Mpa example yaffe abalimi. Emmwanyi ne ziwowa, mu malunzi ente ne zifa. Naye oli ayinza okubuuza gavumenti ya Uganda, tulina ekitongole ekitulaga enteebereza y'obudde. Gavumenti ng'efaayo bayinza okugamba kati balina system ya irrigation. Kirungi baagireeta. Naye njagala okwebuuza impact ya system ya irrigation in the different parts of the country baddeeta. Okimanyi nti omulimu emmwanyi ze bwe ziwowa, omanyi nti gavumenti efiirwa? Kabaka abantu abasinga balowooza bambi gundi business yange bwegwa, it's me at loss. When your business collapses, it has a very serious impact to the government. Because when I don't earn, the government does not get money. I don't know if I know somebody at any time. But this time, because of the reduction in the fiscal space, we have borrowed in every angle. From commercial banks, from international banks, from individuals. Government is now constrained from where to borrow from. The only leverage that it has is to empower its people such that they can be productive. I want to empower you to be productive so that you can gain from them. Kakatolinga kubuza nti panayibona mugamba government tekoze emyonga tebagireeta. Government yonna bw'ereeta program okola tebayita evaluation. You monitor program and evaluate it. Eweereza etya? tuongeremu ki. A government project is not permanent and pensionable. Esobola okutandika government negisitopingira makati after realizing that it has not achieved the expected output by government. So, bino byonna byatwongera obinyonyola nti si buli omu, I know I tell people, there are some of you who are good in business. Asobola ogenda Kenya n'asuubula. There are some of you who are good in music. But also for some of us who have been in service, kino kye tusobola kukola, this is the best we can give to the country. Sensitize the people. Buli wobeera mu dduuka lyo ng'otudde, buli wogenda ku TikTok, lowooza nnyo butya bwe tuyinza okwebbulula okufuna obukulembeze obuli mwensa. For me, I hate cheap politics that always, emphasizes critiquing all the time. I normally respect positive criticism. Now, we should say is to revive the glory of public institutions. Nani manyi government ya Mwami Museveni agenda kuddayo akabala nnyo ku maaso akkirize nti kanzireyo ntunule mu bitambula bya government okulaba how best we can have institutions ezisobola okuweereza abantu. Oli ayinza okwebuuza muweereza government esinziira ku ki okuteekawo ekitongole, government esinziira ku ki okuteekawo department. That is dependent on the needs of the people. Kakati bw'osanga government etaddewo ebitongole ebitaweereza abantu, those entities become redundant. You've seen in the fight for corruption, so many agencies. There are corruption units in the State House, there are corruption units in URA. Tugenda kutuuka ku level nga buli minister inako anti-corruption unit. So, buli woba ne structure etayogera ku, this structure must speak to the concerns of the people. Bw'obeera ne minister and the ministries, these ministries zirina okuba ng'ekigendererwa kyazo is to serve the people. Era government ya Dembe, mujjukira, it was in the 12th and the 11th parliament. Government where it was the RAPEX, the rationalization of government agencies and public expenditure. RAPEX say, I felt excited that when government rationalizes its public expenditure and it rationalizes its agencies, Chiabika now they are in the move babeera ne structure yakolebwa naye ate substantially important ngeweereza abantu kyetwalowooza when it comes to the RAPEX mujjukira URA ne bazijjawo UCDA ne zigenda, so many institutions zaggibwawo. Government told us that they would save 1 trillion. What came next? Wababuuza the 1 trillion gye mwatugamba nti mugenda kusavinga through the RAPEX, what happened? Ogenda okuwulira every single project ejja mu Uganda government egiteekako a secretariat. N'obasanga obaleetera Muyonga, they have a secretariat for Muyonga. When they bring the parish development model, a secretariat for the parish development model. Efunza wano egaziya wali. You amalgamate these ones. You open up. Kati newesanga that simple RAPEX. By the way, RAPEX was a very nice idea. Naye government yagireeta mu bugubugu. It wasn't well resourced. Kyobula bazireeta nga bazizaayo beerabidde kino. Omuntu atuuka okwebuuza, one asks him or herself, do we have the right people in these spaces? Abantu betulina mu office za government be bantu abatuufu. Omuntu yenna ayinza okubuuza, one may ask, bw'oba ng'oli Munnayuganda n'oba omukisa okubeera mu office ya government, what stops you from doing the right thing? Olajja kugamba above yafuuka above. Era kyokolaba abakozi ba government innovation oba innovativeness mu office za government yaggwawo because abantu bakolera ku bucheat. Tajja kukola kituufu nga bakama be bamugamba kirala. So, ensonga gye njagala munootinga ebyo gye tulina okulwanako ennyo. Ate nammwe mugiteekeko njagala mukubenga ttooki mu bakozi ba gavumenti naye ddala bannabyabufuzi. Bwe twakalanako wano nga tubagamba nti Mukulu Museveni alonzeewa minisita wonna naye yaloko gavumenti agyonoonye. People thought it was politics. It was a very big blunder to have a mix of Balama and Namere. I don't know what Mr. Museveni opted for, but since I realizing the offices no balowooza nti bala mbagenda mukoze to run around the country. Njagala obategeeza local government brings the services to the local people. We don't underestimate Balama and Namere, but they can be somewhere else. tukirize, I want to form the NRM government. Muwache baita experience ekitiibwa. Muwache baita experience ekitiibwa. More especially mu very strategic leadership esalawo kinene nnyo mu kutambuza kw'eggwanga. Olaba naawe n'oba okoze ka business ko ng'onoonya omukozi naawe obuuza yali akozeeko wa ewani. So some of the things that we all get, there are two things that bring service on the table: the political leadership and the technical leadership. So I want to call upon the government, Mwalimu Museveni Kusaba, objectively, let there be objectivity when recruiting public servants. Zimbabwe Deputy Chair of Public Accounts Committee Central, we realized abantu abamutuna before your government tabali badendifeeri. Mwana wani yasoma nani naye nga tasobola kukola mulimu. Teri Munnayuganda tasobola kuweereza mu ggwanga lino. We can all serve in different spaces. We have different talents. Naye omuntu akusambisa ennamba enkyamu abamubiri. So tubasaba, if the interest is to serve Ugandans, mutuyambe mu improving on how you recruit, on how you promote. Bikulu nnyo on how you retire. Omuntu agenda okufuna byatu. So many people who are resourceful out there nga baretiringa government ebakozesa ente. Njagala kusaba Mwalimu Museveni, simanyi oba alikikkiriza. Omuntu awezezza emyaka 6 teyali badde mubaka wa parliament. 60 years nga you are aspiring okuba omubaka wa parliament myaka 6. Awo baali babadde mu ziboodi. They would ate naffe kubanga tuli bazadde. Omuzadde awezezza emyaka 6. Kati omwana we yali badde ng'asaba ebifeero. Ogenda okusoma njagala okubategeeza abavubuka draw interest. Mutandike interest yourselves into the list of MPs. Bali bamekera in which age structure. The public servants, bali bameka abakozi ba government in which age bracket. Ekyo kibayamba okulaba oba eggwanga lirina future. Naye kaakati osanga abakadde babanga bangi bwe baweereza mu strategic position tebalimanya bizibu by'abavubuka kubanga ye yakikuba yakita yamalayo. It is very hard for them to think about the affairs of the people. Twetaaga abantu abalina experience, but still they must be recruited in the rightful positions. So, also the civic society organizations, independent media, and political opposition figures frequently face legal hurdles, administrative restrictions, and pressure from security forces, thus compromising on the rule of law and a free civic space. Compromise of accountability and corruption, where the public's discourse centers heavily on institutional transparency, service delivery gaps, and calls for stricter enforcement against systematic corruption within public administration. This poses operational challenges and thus compromise on the quality of service delivery. Automatically, just know it's already an impact. Enforcement nungi. Naye buli lw'olabanga gavumenti eteekamu amaanyi amangi okukaka abantu okukola kye balina okukola oba ffe abantu okuteekamu amaanyi amangi okukaka gavumenti kyerina okukola kitegeeza abantu batamanyi buvunaanyizibwabwe. So awo we mbasabira, enforcement is very expensive. Fenna, both the citizens and the leaders, fenna buli mwaka oli party ye. You don't have to be forced to do it. Just know that is your money. Sente zo zijja okusasula bbiru z'amazzi. Bw'ogenda mu public institution n'oyonoona ky'osanzeeyo, the repairs and maintenance will be done using your money. So, ebyo byonna bibaddikiza nga tukumiriza gavumenti okukola obuvunaanyizibwa bwayo. We must be responsible and responsive citizens. Olabonda bana babikola baagala tokola bye bakola wabula ffe struggling okulaba nti tubeera ekyokulabirako. Ffe bannaffe bwe tunaaseetinga standi zeno zituwangane kijja kuba kizibu nnyo abalagajja okukulembera. So wano we mbasabira nga tusaba obukulembeze obulungi. Naffe bannansi naffe twekolemu omulimu. When do we support our leaders? When do we give them feedback? Odawo omugundi katulinde emyaka 5 bwe ginaggwayo tetujja muzzaayo. Katulinde emyaka 5 nga giweddeko gomanyi kyoba ofiiriddwa. Mukulembeze omulaga jja 5 years bwembanga nakusanga kwasatu ng'ogenda kuba kwana mu etaano ng'emyaka ebitiini egitudde. Bwemba nakusanga ku nkango oyingidde enkaaga mu etaano tokyasobola na kuluma nnyama. So just know there is no time to waste. Buli kintu kikikolere mu budde bwakyo. Wakugundi mutwalabeeyo ajja tulaba omubaka ajja kukola atya. Ajja kulaba gwe nga bw'olowooza naye yajja kuba ayiseewo gwe ng'ofiiriddwa. So we must know when to ask for accountability. Accountability tesebwa mukulembeze yekka. But as we call for accountability, we must also be accountable for our own lives. Gwe muweeraga jjaja. I normally ask people, why should you allow abaana kusomera? Why do you take children to school? Mwagala mmere ya leero, mwagala kagwirawo, nagera nentunulira, sorry to say, nali mukaluka local councils. Nentunula nga bajje abantu mu register. Waliwo omwami omukulu sijja mwogera, naye nga ye chairman si wano aliko asaavinga. Yali vice chairman, yaliko chairman n'afa naye ono nga yasaavinga. Baali abaami n'abakyala nga bataano bakuzeeko mu myaka. Ne mbabuuza, naye gwe owulira otya nga baleese register y'abo ku kyalo nga bataka banno bonna bato tebaliimu. Bataka banno tebaliimu naye gwe mwoli. Naye bakutta abaana abajja okukola casual work ku kyalo. Nze landiroodi naye abapangisa bange bali mu lisi ey'ekyalo nze landiroodi sikola ki landiroodi siriimu. Because leero badde beneficiary w'akavuyo tebafaayo kubanga baalina kye bagusa era tiyagala akalume babbakabbe. Kati namubuuza nti gwe bw'onaavaayo ng'oyagala tusabireko obwenkanya onaasinziirawo. So njagala obbasaba ne bw'oba olina ky'oyagala topromotinga nga butali bwenkanya. Saaweeno for you who participated in the local council election, where you fraudulently declared a chairman that did not win an election, are you then creating peace at the village? Remember, the village level is the lowest level of administration. Whoever causes conflict at the village level, in such a country, where how can we fail to, Mr. Biabakam, how can we fail just to manage an election? Kati omubonero butono nnyo obulaga eggwanga ebyononese. Era nze neebuuza ye mwami Museveni akakasa bw'abeereyo bino ebintu kyeyabiraba. Did she see this? Simon Biabakam. Bino tewabiraba. Bagende mu kooti yabwerere. Is court for free? Bw'ogenda mu kooti, is it a free service? So, bino ebizibu bye tusobola okugonjoola ebimalamu abantu amaanyi. Tubigonjoole and in time. So you cannot have a fraudulent one election and you think that you will have a peaceful village. Then you find the government at the national level investing most of our money in the national budget, in the governance and security. Mwami Museveni and your team, we have no moral authority of investing taxpayers' money in the governance and security when we cannot do the basics. Kumanga, it is us who destabilize. If what they are what destabilizing the end. When we are already passed, ajabbe ate ng'ova okugamba nti bannange tulina okulaba nga tulaba engeri gye tutumaabo gye tugema ababbi. So that automatically cannot work. So as we invest money in governance and security, we must look for all possible ways of mitigating the loopholes. What brings insecurity in the area? Abduct someone, take them to the basement for some, arrest people, the Chizabes here and others, the Lukwango, Honorable Mwanga Chikumbi, our colleagues, the Vice Wars, arrest them. Someone whose wife dies, you very much know that you even, you fraudulently arrested somebody, they lose their family members. For you, it doesn't matter. No sanga abazige misanga abatufu, but wait.